Who is it? There's a chain and who looks so? Who is this? Who is this? It's me. Opens up the door. Moshe, what do you want? What do you want? Says, we won. We won. So what did we win? What did we win? We won the lottery. We won 30 million, 15 million for you, 15 million from me, Zalman. You should be happy. Zalman says, listen, if you don't get out of here, I'm going to call the police, buddy. He says, you don't know who you're messing around with. I'm going to call the police. I got a gun in the house. Get out of here immediately. I'll do it. He says, what are you angry? I don't understand. He says, listen, to wake up a regular person at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I'm a millionaire. What are you waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning for? And all of a sudden, he got the money. What happened? He's not happy. He wants more. He's a big shot. He's a big shot. When we realize that everything that we have is from God, and that we ourselves are from God, and the greatest thing even more is that God believes in us. He gave us responsibility in the world. That should make us tremendously happy. So happy when we know who are we receiving it from, not the American government. Lahavda, from the creator of the American government, the creator of all the spirit, the creator of all the things that all the other religions believe in, the creator of it all. Right? He's personally creating me. Every instant a person thinks, could it be true? As soon as it flicks in with dot means, like you look at a check and you see it's your name on the check, right? As soon as you realize it's really me, then all of a sudden tremendous love. And this love becomes so great. And we're talking about in the time of prayer. Again, in the time of prayer, it takes tremendous concentration and tremendous clarity of mind and determination in order to really decide, I really want to feel the truth. I really want to feel the truth. That's why there's a lot of songs in Chabad, also in Nigunim, to put the person in a different mood. Put the person in a different mood, and suddenly he starts to feel something that's his true self. What happens then? There is it fills up his heart. He's filled up his heart, and it overflows to what's called the left side of his heart. The left side of his heart. Suddenly, the reality that there's a creator becomes more, present to him than the feeling that I exist. Here I am. Maybe I can give you a small example of, let's say, two bums on the street. They're fighting over a $10 bill. They found a $10 bill, and all of a sudden somebody comes to them and says, "Why are you fighting over a $10 bill? Here, I'll give each one of you $1,000. All of a sudden, right? Now only one can get the $10, but both of them can get the $1,000. He doesn't thank you very much. He gives them the $1,000, and he leaves. Now the $10 is on the street. Are they going to fight over it? You know what? You take the 10. You take the 10. What happens? It's the same $10, but as soon as you put it into a bigger perspective, suddenly he sees 1,000. As soon as a person feels the oneness of God, then suddenly the world is a real world, but he doesn't get so emotional in an improper way about things. Everything is put into the proper place. And so it's Shivisi Hashem Negdi Tamid. I will put God in front of me always, but the word Shivisi means equal. That everything, he realizes everything in the world is being created by God, and everything that happens from God. But there's a lesson to be learned. Let's learn the proper lesson. The lesson is not to get mad and to shoot somebody or burn your next door neighbor's house down. There's something to learn from everything that there is in the world, to learn a positive message. So it says that, how do you learn that? By having a certain feeling of God. That this feeling then starts to overflow into the left side of your heart. Suddenly you realize all the things you used to get angry about, it's like the $10 bill. God is like the $1,000 bill. What was I so excited about? La kafia sitra achar, and this pushes away your feeling of selfishness. And this feeling of selfishness was the yesod, the foundation, that was the basis, the cause. Mayim oroyim, what's called the bad waters. Now we said before, water, the element of water in the soul is desire. All these bad desires, sheba, she'atayvish shemiklipas noga, which are desires which come from klipat noga. We talked about klipat noga in the 7th chapter. It's another name for nature. L'shanota, to change it. Ulahafcha, and to transform it. Mitanugi olam hazeh, from pleasures in this world. La'avas Hashem, to the love of God. Kamosha Katuv, like it says, b'chol levavacha, with all of your soul, with all of your heart. What does it mean, b'chol levavacha, all of your heart? It should say b'chol libecha. Why two bases? Levavcha, with shnei yitzorecha, with both of your, what do you want to call it? Both of your urges. Hainu, sheyale v'yava v'yagia, that a person can go up, and he can arrive, and he can attain Lamedregat Ahava Rabba, such a great level of love, V'chivi Yisera, and such a great level of attachment and value in God, a level that's even greater Mimedregat Ahava Razakos Peish, from the even greater than the love of flaming fire, like we talked about in the beginning of this chapter. Flaming fire, a person loves God like flaming fire, means God is there and I'm here. Right? He wants God, he loves God, but God is far away, but he loves him, he wants him, needs him. Lahavdil, the people used to be in these rock and roll shows, right? The girls, they would see, who knows, the singer would do, oh, they want him, they need to screaming, they're jumping, they're falling off of the balcony. So lahavdil, I mean, unfortunately, I can't give an example in godliness because we don't see it in the world, but to see such a love, a desire to go out of yourself for something good. Here it is, this man is standing up on the stage, I'm in the same room with him, I can't believe it. This is the music and the songs, and they sold 20 million records, I didn't sell anything in my life. And this man is standing there, just to look at him and be here. Maybe he'll look at me, ooh, I think he looked in my direction. Oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. A person feels that really that God is looking at him and he cares about him. Here we're talking about Hashem who creates everything, including the rock and roll stars and God. Suddenly everything becomes in the proper place. Suddenly he realizes, why do I have such tremendous love for the world? My love should be for the Creator. Right? It doesn't mean that I can't like things in the world. I can still like rock and roll music, I can still like it, but it's not so important to me. It's not such a big thing. Right? It's what I like. And if it happens to be that this is forbidden according to the Torah, I'll find something else to like. Right? It'll be difficult, but right? A person likes cheeseburgers. He really loves cheeseburgers. He lives for cheeseburgers. As soon as he finds out, listen, God doesn't want you to eat cheeseburgers, okay, I'll suffer a little bit, I will, but not that much. Not that much. If somebody snatches my cheeseburger away, I'll say, okay, let him stay. So suddenly what happens is his whole life becomes a life that's different. He has emotions. Suddenly there are people in that live their whole life and they never show emotions for anybody. It's really good. They never hug their children. They never are happy to see a friend. They don't care about their parents. Their parents are just a burden. They put them in the whole life. They're just very cold. Everything's cold. Here the Rabbi is saying everything becomes warm because God is warm. God creates you. He gives you blood, warm blood. He's giving it to you all the time. This type of love that you love God, that totally conquers your whole being, is called a love of delights. It's not such a good word. Ahava b'tanugim, but anyway, it means a love in ultimate pleasure, tainug. A love of pleasure. Pleasure, not that you're loving of pleasure. It's a love in pleasure. Lit'aneg al Hashem, to get pleasure from God, me'en olam haba, like the world to come. What happens in the world to come? The world to come is you're without a body, and it's purely spiritual. You start to feel the source of all pleasure. And this pleasure, where does the pleasure come from? This ultimate pleasure does not come from anything physical. This ultimate pleasure comes from your brain. It comes from the brain of what's called chachma, the power of conception, of realization. The seichel mitanig, and the awareness of the mitanig. I saw, and someone sent me a video of people that they do some sort of a minor operation on them and they attach something to their ear that arouses, I don't know if they go inside of the person, I don't know what it is. Anyway, they have some sort of a thing that they attached on a person's head, deaf people. And that suddenly they're able to hear. Some of these people are able to hear. And if you see it, it's just, I imagine you could, but I can't without being emotional. The person, they attach this thing to the person's head and they turn it on, and like a little child, maybe 2 years old, said, "You hear me? You hear me, honey?" Also, child was like this. Like that, and he started to smile. Another person, they say to a man, a grown man, Do you hear what I'm saying? I look, oh, can't believe it, he can't believe it. He still is talking like a deaf person. So covering over his head, all of a sudden he can hear sound. Now, these people, that they hear the sounds, they don't understand the words, what they're hearing, because they never heard words before. They don't understand, what's the guy so happy about? What's the big deal? All of a sudden was given to him a new sense. And it's a sense that's not even articulated in any way. He doesn't know what, if it's hearing, if it's seeing, if it's feeling, it doesn't know what it is. All of a sudden, there's a new sense. He senses his mother in a whole new way. He senses his friend in a whole new way. He senses the world in a whole new thing. It's a bird. What's going on? He hears a sound, a wind. He's just amazed. That's like Chachma. Chachma is unformed reality, pure reality. It's just so amazing that you can have a new sense and you don't even know what it is. That's this ability to sense God. It's unformed. It's pure pleasure in a new sense, a new way of feeling reality. What really is. And he senses what really connects to what really is. There's sounds and he could never connect to them. All of a sudden, a whole new thing is going on in the world. There's these waves going on and you never even knew it. You never knew it. All of a sudden, it's there. It's not that they messed with his mind and made him imagine sounds. He really is. It's the same exact thing here. The person really feels what there is. He feels the oneness of God above any definition. That's called Chachma. It says this. This is called Ahava B'Tainugim. This is called pleasure, love from pleasure. Lit'aneg al Hashem, to get pleasure from God. Me'en olam haba, something like it is in the world to come. In the world to come, there's no body, there's no. Ha'oneg hu b'moach chachma, and this is in what's called the brain, the ability of what's chachma. V'seichel amit'aneg, and those people, the intelligence of those people who get pleasure from haskalas, from the understanding of God, the idea, and the awareness and the connection to God, kafi hasaras seichlo v'chachmaso. And this is the level of water. Let's see what time it is. This is the level of water. Water, like we said in the first chapter of the Tanya, is pleasure. V'zorea or zerua, and it plants or gives what's called a flow of light. The Kedushas Nefesh Elokis, that comes from the holiness of the godly soul, and it has the ability to transform to good the water of the animal soul. Shemehem, that from this comes the pleasures of Tainui Olam Hazeh in the beginning, like it's written in Eitz Chaim, Shar Nun, Paragimel, in the name of the Zohar. Okay, there is in Judaism, there is sometimes that water can be defiled. Water. There's a lot of very strange laws in Judaism. It's in a whole section called Tahorot. There's what's called Torah and Tuma. There's what's called Torah defilement and Torah purity. You can't measure it scientifically. There's no way you can measure it scientifically. The ultimate level of impurity is a dead body. And then a person, let's say, that touches the dead body, he's a little bit lower level of impurity. And a person that touches that person, he's a little bit lower in that level. And then the food can become impure, water can become impure, different levels. If they do become impure, sometimes there's ways to make them pure again. Food, you can't make pure again, but human beings can. They go to a mikveh, and water also can. And one of the ways that water can is by pouring more water. That's called zoria. Is by pouring or attaching this body of impure water to a body of pure water. So here in the Tanya we're saying water is pleasure. Water is pleasure. Pleasure is a very mystical thing. It rules the world, pleasure. But we get pleasure out of power, pleasure out of this, pleasure, more spiritual pleasures, physical pleasures. But pleasure is the motivational force in the world. Pleasure. People want pleasure. But there's different types of pleasure. There's also pleasure that a person gets from, like the Rabbi says here, a whole totally different type of pleasure. All those pleasures we were talking about before, that I think that basically all psychiatry is based on, is what I get, my type of pleasure, what frustration of pleasures and sublimation of pleasures and confusion of pleasures and what things stops me from getting what I want. There's huge seminars that make how you can get successful. Some people like success. But here the Rebbe is talking about a totally different type of pleasure. He's talking about a pleasure of being attached to something that's greater than yourself, of giving yourself, not what you receive. Is this type of pleasure of giving yourself over to the truth, giving yourself over to honesty, even though you may lose. Even a person, God forbid, may even lose his life. But he's doing it for the sense of truth, for the sense of honesty. This is a whole totally different type of a pleasure than any other types of pleasures. All the other pleasures are small, dealing with myself. And now the whole world is crazy for these types of pleasures, especially, sexual pleasures. The world is just simply obsessed. It's just an insane obsession going on over the whole world. How I can get the most and give the least. I give the least. That I won't have children, that I won't have a family, there won't be society, there won't be anything, no obligations. I can just feel good, the pleasure. Here, this is a different type of pleasure. This is the pleasure from exactly the opposite. The pleasure is from increasing my obligation. More I'm connected to the source of life, the more obligations I have, because God gave the Torah. The Torah, the essence of life is obligation. God didn't give the Torah just to punish us, to make us tricks, something like that. God is not the God of Hinduism or Spinoza, or these people are just some sort of amorphous being, power of pleasure that sort of floats over all being, and you just sort of get away from the lower pleasures and go to the upper pleasures. We're not talking about what you get. All those are talking about what you receive. It's selfish, intensely selfish, all these people. All these philosophers. Here the Rebbe is talking about something totally different. The Rebbe is talking about how to use yourself for what it was created for. In other words, to make it a vessel for God's blessing to be in the world. When a person does that, he feels a tremendous pleasure. The pleasure that he feels is because he's connected to the truth. He's connected to something that's truth. Something like this child who said that all of a sudden he can hear. Right? He doesn't know what it means. Not only that, the child, if you think about it, if you hear, you got problems. Because some people say a person that's deaf is exempt from all the commandments. A person that's blind is exempt. A person suddenly can see, suddenly can hear. Now he's got a lot of obligations. Right? Before he could say, I don't understand. Right? You can't expect me to go to music class. You can't expect me to do piano lessons. I can't hear. It's ridiculous. But now all of a sudden he hears. It's a whole different world. He has to play on tune, and he can speak to others, and others tell him what to do. He has to listen to what they say. So it says obligation, responsibility. It's a different type of a pleasure because a person is connected to the truth. Is connected to the truth. And when a person is connected to the truth, is he could be that he'll even be willing to defy the whole entire world. This is a very basic principle also in Viktor Frankl's psychiatry, his whole method of his. The power to defy nature. Like it's written in the name of the Zohar, Shehara ne'afach liyot tov gamor. That bad transforms to be completely good. Kamo yetzer tov mamash, like the yetzer tov, like the good impulse. Ba'asir abagadei metzoyim, when you remove the filthy garments from them. What is the filthy garments? The filthy garments are tainugi olam hazeh, the pleasures of this world. Shalomu b'shmehem, things enclosed in them. So what do we see? That the whole essence of what the Rebbe is saying, there is such a thing as the Jewish people. And the Jewish people, the essence of the Jewish people is to teach the world what really good and bad is. What is really good? The Creator. But a Jew must feel this first. This is something that's immensely, intensely personal. The most personal, inner, meaningful feeling that it's possible to feel. That's what the Jewish people want everyone in the world to feel. But in order to do that, you have to sort of stop emphasizing yourself. That's what it means to remove the dirty garments, the pleasures of this world. And when a person does remove the pleasures of this world, it doesn't mean a person shouldn't be in the world. A person can be in the world and he should be active in the world. Exactly the opposite. You must be in the world. You must be active. But your goal is not for your own personal pleasure. Then it's a whole type of a different type of a pleasure. As Viktor Frankl says, pleasure is something you cannot pursue. This is the big fault of America, pursuit of happiness. Pleasure is something that must ensue. It comes from doing something meaningful. It comes from doing something that's greater than you, from giving yourself to a greater and more true and positive cause than yourself. And interestingly enough, I have my mother passed away like 20 some years ago. My father remarried to a very nice woman. My father also passed away, unfortunately, 4 years ago, but he married a very nice lady. She was a Holocaust survivor. I'm still in contact with her. I call her up once a week. And I told her a little bit about this. She said, you should know that it's really the truth. She was in concentration in Auschwitz. She said, everybody that survived, they all had some reason to survive for. She said, myself also, just to see my family. I came back, they were all killed. But just the idea that there was something greater than myself that I had. And that's the thing, that's the essence of what life is. That's what the Rebbe is trying to say, that the Jewish people, every single Jew, without exception, has an obligation to be a holy temple. The essence of the holy temple is to give, to serve, to connect to the truth which is beyond and above us, and a truth which is more real than we are, more precious than anything we can possibly imagine and feel. And when we connect to it, we become part of it. And that automatically arouses inside of us a tremendous love which overcomes the bad and the selfish in the world. But this is a constant battle. It's not that if you get it one time, I have achieved nirvana, I have achieved enlightenment, that's it, I made it. It doesn't work that way. It works that it has a constant battle every day, every hour, every moment for some people. It's a constant battle for a person to always, never to trust himself 100%. That's the Benoni. Never to trust himself and always try to do, say, think, and feel what is right. It's a tremendous battle, and next time we'll finish explaining how to be victorious in this battle.